The moon cast a silvery glow upon the desolate road, its feeble light struggling to penetrate the thick canopy of trees that lined the winding path. The man's knuckles were white against the steering wheel as he navigated the treacherous darkness, his heart quickening with each mile that he ventured further into the isolated wilderness. Richard had never been a superstitious man. He scoffed at ghost stories and dismissed tales of the supernatural as mere fiction, yet as he drove deeper into the night, an unsettling unease began to crawl up his spine. The rhythmic tapping of raindrops against the windshield and the occasional flash of lightning only amplified his growing sense of dread. A dense fog slithered across the road, reducing visibility to almost nothing. Richard slowed down, squinting through the mist in an attempt to discern the path ahead. Suddenly, a figure materialized out of the gloom, standing in the middle of the road. Richard's heart seized in his chest as he slammed on the brakes, his tires screeching against the wet pavement. The figure appeared to be a woman, her pale face illuminated by the faint glow of the headlights. Her eyes were hollow, devoid of life, and her tattered white dress clung to her frail form. Panicking, Richard fumbled for his cell phone, his trembling fingers struggling to dial 911. As he looked up, the woman had disappeared, leaving no trace of her presence. He blinked, convinced that his exhausted mind was playing tricks on him. Perhaps it was a deer or a trick of the light. With a shaky sigh, he continued on his way, dismissing the incident as a mere illusion. Minutes turned into hours as Richard pressed on through the enveloping night. The road seemed endless, twisting and turning like a labyrinth designed to confound and bewilder. His headlights revealed fleeting glimpses of eerie shapes lurking at the edges of the woods, their forms shifting and contorting as if in a macabre or dance. Unnerving whispers seemed to seep into the car, whispered secrets carried by the wind. His radio crackled to life, emitting a haunting melody that seemed to echo with a sense of foreboding. Richard reached to turn it off, but the dial seemed to have a mind of its own, refusing to obey his command. The tune grew louder, its dissonant chords reverberating within the confines of the car. Panic clenched Richard's chest as he wrestled with the radio, his attempts to silence the music only intensifying its cacophony. Just as suddenly as it had started, the music ceased, leaving behind an eerie silence that was almost deafening. Richard's heart pounded in his ears, his breath coming in shallow gasps. He glanced at the rearview mirror, his eyes widening in terror. The woman from before was seated in the back seat, her vacant eyes fixed upon him, her lips moved, forming words that Richard strained to hear. "Turn back," she whispered, her voice a ghostly murmur that seemed to echo from the abyss. Richard's hands clenched the steering wheel, his mind a swirling maelstrom of fear and confusion. He wanted nothing more than to heed her advice and escape this nightmarish journey, but an unexplainable force seemed to compel him forward, deeper into the heart of the unknown. The road began to warp and twist, morphing into a nightmarish landscape that defied reason. Richard's surroundings became a disorienting blur of distorted shapes and surreal colors. He felt as if he were trapped in a fever dream, a puppet in the hands of some malevolent force that reveled in his torment. Hours stretched into an eternity as Richard's sanity teetered on the edge of collapse. He lost all sense of time and space, his world reduced to the hypnotic rhythm of the road beneath him. The woman's whispers grew louder, her voice a symphony of despair that echoed in his ears. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the nightmare ended. Richard found himself back on a familiar stretch of road, the fog and darkness lifting like a shroud. His heart raced as he surveyed his surroundings, his mind struggling to comprehend what had just transpired. With trembling hands, he pulled over to the side of the road and stumbled out of the car, his legs barely able to support his weight. He turned to look back at the path he had just traversed, half expecting to see the woman's spectral form lurking in the shadows. But there was nothing, only the empty road and the oppressive silence of the night. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky with hues of pink and gold, Richard sank to his knees, his body racked with exhaustion and relief. He had survived the night, but the horrors he had witnessed would forever haunt his dreams. The inexplicable terrors of that night had shattered his skepticism and forever altered the course of his life. The road he had traveled may have led him back to the realm of the living, but the darkness that had consumed him would remain an indelible scar on his soul.